What's up, Bitcoin Radio? It's your man, Joe Blackburn. Welcome to WBTC, where Bitcoin lives. As today we break down another episode. As mass adoption goes, what's the best way to get people interested in Bitcoin? I mean, I've asked this question on several different lives, and the answer never changes, right? It's not really teach them, it's give them. And I've always been fond of projects that give back first. When you give back first, because I guess you can't give back if you're giving for the first time. But if you give first, you're more likely to at least catch people's attention. Now, some people have argued this point where, giving destroys value at times, but that's simply not true, especially if you do it the right way. So today I'm going to bring on and interview Lin Dai. He is the CEO and co-founder of the TAP Network. They are a rewards program, and we're going to get into some details on that. Obviously, I'm not the expert. Lin is, and he's quite an interesting character. He's also somebody who's got an extensive background in entrepreneurship. In 1999, he even built a social media platform, and you'll hear about that a little bit too, because I'm sure we'll discuss it. In fact, I can't wait to ask him about it because it's something that I just think is really ahead of its time. I mean, obviously, we know the Facebook story, we know MySpace. There's been several small ones, but we're going to get to hear Lin's story today. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. He's in the lobby right now. So I also wanted to remind everybody, to make sure that if you like what we're doing, we need feedback. If you don't like something, let me know. I know it's always a dangerous question, but I've got to make sure that we are accommodating what you're trying to hear. If you want to be a guest on my show, give me a call, right? I'm going to do a call-in show where anybody in the audience can call. It's going to be unscripted. It's going to be live. As long as you're polite, as long as you have some respect and you don't start cussing, you won't be censored. We'll let you say what you want. You come on here and talk bad about me. I don't know what you can say. Look at me, right? I mean, no, I'm just joking. All right, so let's go ahead and bring on Lin. Really honored to have him on. And I got to give a big shout out to SS Sean Saunders. Thank you, sir, for the introduction. I think this is a great opportunity to bring on and let people hear about a project that's doing some great things in the space. So without further ado, what's up, Mr. Lin Dai? How's it going, brother?
Hey, Joe. How are you?
Man, I am doing great. Even better now that I can share the screen with somebody and not have to talk the whole time.
Great.
Yeah, wonderful, man. But like I said, welcome to the show. We got a small chance to talk and kind of connect prior to, and I kind of let you know, like, I'm a mass adoption, huge fan as far as an ambassador to bringing more people into the space, make them more aware. What's a better way to do it than to reward somebody, right? Your rewards program. So before we get too involved and too deep into all this, let's just hear about you, the man himself, man. Tell us about you, where you're from, how'd you get started?
It's pretty simple. So I tell people I'm a nerd. I went to Carnegie Mellon University, and back in 1999, during the first .com, I ended up with my roommate built a first ever social network for teens out of my dorm room. So at the time, we were able to get about 2 million teens online, which was, I think more than 90% of all teens that was having access to the web. Learned a lot when the company was taken public, and learned a lot when the market crashed. So lived through all of that. So,
Sure.
we were 4 years before MySpace and 5 years before Facebook, right? The concept was kind of at a smaller scale, proven out, and
ahead of its time, really.
A little bit ahead of its time. So timing is like super important. You can build great product if the consumers are not ready to adopt, a lot of great projects die, right? So, after that, I actually spent about a dozen years working at major media companies. So like Viacom, Alloy, traditional media company that was like really looking into how do we build a digital media business. So, did a lot of M&A work, did a lot of digital product building, and really, and about 6 years ago, I really kind of want to get back into the startup environment. So left big companies and joined a mobile video startup in Canada that was, doing some great things with the mobile video network that, was a kind of similar to a product offering eventually what Instagram put out on the video side. So, at the time, Instagram was only doing photos. So joined as a chief marketing officer, kind of grow that company from 10 million to about 75 million users worldwide. So that company got taken public on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And about 4 years ago, then, I came back to New York, got together with my current co-founder, Jared Christopherson, who's also a 10 plus year veteran in the digital advertising space, ran a major agency that did all the performance ad buy for companies like Living Social, Dollar Shave Club, Casper. So we were talking about how kind of the consumer data model really shifted, right? Advertising is based on data, and then Facebook and Google is just accumulating so much data that no other company can compete. And as third-party marketers, we were like able to kind of take advantage of how much Facebook was allowing third-party marketers to arbitrage your data. And we kind of came, 4 years ago, we came to this conclusion. We're like, that this is not a sustainable model, right? So at some point, consumers are going to be not okay with this because they just don't know. So we started experimenting with like, hey, how do we get a class of data that's, that Facebook doesn't monopolize? And we came to the conclusion like your purchase data is really important for potentially an advertiser. But we want to build a better company. We didn't want to, we could have been buying your purchase data from 14 different major companies that's selling that, right now, right? So like you never got compensated for it. You never gave permission for that. We want to build a different type of company. So we're like, what if we actually reward consumer and they grant us permission, right? So that was the genesis for this company, is just actually rewarding you in a way that you allow sharing of your data with brands that want to pay you for that data.
Yeah. And, sorry to stop you and interrupt you here because, but I want to ask you a question. But, first and foremost, before we get to the actual introduction of the TAP network to the audience, I want to make a couple things clear. Number one, this is a stable coin, folks. This is not something that we're trying to, advertise as a coin that you should go and buy. I'm impartial, I'm unbiased, and I'm not here to do anything except introduce a project that I think is really exciting and that might be able to put us in a position to help bring new people in. That's my motivation. And so obviously transparency in the blockchain space, especially as someone who's got a stage and an audience, very important to me. Me and Lin, this is our first day meeting. We've never had a conversation until earlier. And I think it's really cool to be able to just hop on, have a mutual interest and be able to have these discussions. But back to you, Lin, and obviously I like to make sure that we're very transparent going into the discussion when it comes to a project, but you have done a really great job in putting this together. I was so impressed. But even going back to like your beginning of your entrepreneurship and when you created the social media network for the teens, having 2 million users, even right now, is a lot, right? Still to this day, 2 million users is a significant amount of people. Was that at all integral, like that whole experience? And I don't mean to drift off, but was that experience really a big influence into what you're doing now with TAP and seeing, the timing probably wasn't right there, but it is right now, for a social media network of some sort. Is this in today's day and time like a complete result from that moment with social media, or would you say it's a little bit more broader than that? Because to me, with what you just said about data and how important that is and what it's going to be even more important in the future, man, this is a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, I think the early projects definitely, every project I've done in my life, both my experience with startups or major companies have led me to today, right? So I was able to, at the major companies, I was able to see how advertising ecosystem ran in a very massive scale, and I can really see kind of how it's shifted and really identify the opportunity. With my first startup, I think a couple of things I learned is, we were, I know we were very early on and we were very concerned about privacy, right? So there was this wave in the early internet days. Everybody is like actually talk about privacy a lot, which is like privacy. How do we protect especially like teens or children from being preyed upon? And then the second iteration was basically the social media era when like internet 2.0, right? So and what Facebook has done, what nobody else have done right before, was just like, hey. The whole concept of Facebook was like, it's not about anonymity. It's really about like openly sharing and connecting with real people. So that resonated really well, right? Things that we never were able to do in the first version of social network. We didn't allow our users to basically upload photos and actual link them to other users.
Sure. And but that had a reason, as you just stated, they're teens. These aren't grown adults. These are people whose privacy is not just important, it's even more important.
Sure. Yeah. And then fast forward to, 2010, like everybody can can post whatever on social media.
Dude, that was breaking at the time. Like that was not new. I mean, like that wasn't like regular. That was brand new, and nobody could even imagine. Why would you even need that, right? You don't even have pictures on the internet. Who's going to check it? That's probably what we all would have said.
Yeah, and then you fast forward another 10, 15 years. Social media is really mature. Now the opposite is true again, right? Like people are now aware because they are sharing they're sharing everything, right? They're not just sharing the photo, they're sharing everything they like, they talk about their political views, their whatever, and all those are potentially being monetized. Well, all those are definitely being monetized and potentially used against them, right? So we're talking about,
of course,
bad actors and third party marketers with whatever the intention are able to arbitrage the data that Facebook is allowing marketers to arbitrage and really gain something over you. So we think now is actually a great time to really rethink through that ecosystem, right? How you should be compensated, how you should be granting permission when your data is accessed.
No, and that's a great explanation. And I love that journey. Like, it just seems so relevant. And you said something, again, obviously we haven't even got to the meat and potatoes of what the project's actually doing, but you said something that was so relevant, so normal, so, perfect. It's just the truth, in every way. Is timing is so important. And obviously, you use the reference of pictures were everywhere, just a few years later. Well, what enabled that to become popular? Well, putting a camera on a cell phone, right? I mean, I remember the first time I saw a camera on a cell phone thinking, whoa, like, that's the coolest idea I've ever seen. Like, you could be at a party and see something cool and just snap a picture, right? Little did I know, like, that I couldn't imagine life without a camera, like, I mean, people don't even realize how important that is to their lives, and how convenient it is between taking a screenshot. That's another thing. That's another piece of social media, or at least interaction between text messages, screenshotting something. I mean, I don't even have to talk about what I saw. I can just literally just take a picture, now a video of it, right? So timing's everything. Having the right audience, having the right, I guess, maybe delivery avenue. And although the internet is kind of that river, what's the actual way in which people are going to get this in their hands? Well, let's go ahead and move straight into it now. Tap Network, you created it. Talk to us.
Yeah, so Tap Network basically is a universal rewards platform. So we have aggregated about 250,000 different merchants and vendors and brands that's willing to reward you with a percentage of your rewards back, right? And then you basically, if you're a member into one of our rewards programs that's powered by Tap technology, you can access all our offers and deals. So we allow consumer to earn one single universal rewards dollar, rewards points, or rewards currency across all your spends, right? And then you can, and then once you accumulated this rewards dollar, let's say Tap, you can redeem that into any of our participating merchants or vendors. So you're not restricted. So very major differentiator with kind of, traditional rewards programs are, it's siloed, right? So you fly on Delta, you earn Delta miles, hopefully you fly enough, and then maybe someday you can redeem into a Delta flight. So now these programs are great for the heaviest users of that brand, right? So like, if I just fly a lot on Delta, great. Like, I get a lot of, benefits out of the program. But for 80-90% of the consumer, like somebody like my dad who flies maybe twice a year, it takes forever to accumulate enough points for miles, right?
Yeah, especially if they're expiring at,
exactly.
December 31st.
That was like my dad just got an email that his American airline miles, he has 11,000 miles, it's going to expire, right? So, and there's nothing he can
use it or lose it.
Right. Now a rewards program have achieved the opposite of loyalty. Now, like, he got that email. Now, basically, he's potentially getting angry about like not able to redeem. There's not a lot of redemption option, right? Like,
simply just because he's not falling into the time frame in which, which don't get me wrong, I mean, they probably made it very clear, in the terms and conditions. Right. But I mean, come on,
like the opposite
is, keep his points.
But the opposite, right? Like, I like to,
he's mad.
I like to put myself in everybody's shoes, right? So like, for corporations, like, why would you expire my points? But it's legally, accounting wise, they, like, any unredeemed point, they have to carry on their books as an accounting liability. For an American airline over the years, they're accumulating hundreds of millions and billions of dollars of liabilities, right? So that's not something.
Let me get some of them points.
Right. So now, so it's kind of, brands are being caught in a rock and a hard place. They're just like, well, I can either piss off my consumers, or I can actually fiscally carry that, like, or I piss off my shareholders. So, leading into why blockchain can potentially help that? Like, it's an easy answer, right? It's something that actually, if it's a decentralized token in technology that actually gives value to that's back the value, that doesn't require one brand to back that, it potentially can allow brands to offer rewards without incurring massive liability and allow consumer to earn rewards without it ever expiring. So as a mass adoption thing, rewards make sense because it's something that everybody understands, right? So there's, you already are, as a consumer, as a US consumer, you are already signed up to 29 different rewards programs, right? So that's an average statistic. You don't pay attention to maybe 26 or 27 of them, but consumers conceptually love rewards. Like, enrollment is up 31% year over year. There's about $5 trillion of points and miles that's being kept in silo rewards programs.
Wow.
Right. So
that's a lot. I mean, that's an economy for countries.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you think about the opportunity, the entire crypto market, everything added together is about 200 billion, give or take, right now. Right. So the opportunity of actually migrate some of the silo rewards points into a more like shared ecosystem, right? So you benefit both the corporations and the consumer. So for the consumer, it's like, hey, why do I let you, every time you go into Starbucks, every time you go eat at Chipotle, every time you shop at Target, every time you book a hotel, maybe at Marriott, you can maybe earn a single rewards currency, and then, hey, you don't have to spend that back at Marriott. Maybe you want to get a cup of coffee at Starbucks. So to the consumer, it's a universal rewards points make much more sense.
Completely agree, and you explained that really well, and I appreciate you doing it like that. Based on my experience, you brought up point, it has the opposite effect, potentially with one of your customers. I mean, why would a company even want their points to expire? Like, I get it. It's saving them revenue, but the whole point of it is to encourage people to stay with the program, stay with the company, spend more money, acquire these points, and people kind of get it in their head that they do want to participate in this style of accumulation, right? I've been there. I've bought it. I once bought a plane ticket with Delta. It was only like $75 just because I was like 2 points away from going into silver, right? I mean, well worth it. Anybody would do the same thing, but I mean, you got to buy. I mean, it's something you're not going to miss out on. I will go spend just to make sure I get there because it's so worth it the next year, and that's how they hook you. Now, but why would they want them to expire? Like, what's the basis behind that?
Yeah, just to nerd out on the rewards industry for a minute here. So, points and miles are really kind of invented, maybe 30, 40 years ago. Like American Airlines was one of the first airlines to really have a mass scale, like, miles program. And it's kind of, legacy technology at this point, right? So it's kind of, ripe for disruption. The challenge is internally that these programs had gotten so bloated. And, I talked to Barry Sternlicht, who's the CEO of Starwood, right? Starwood, when 2 years ago was acquired by Marriott for billions of dollars. And at the time of the acquisition, Starwood had $700 million worth of unredeemed points liability. Oh, wow. So as a liability, accounting-wise, Marriott is not paying them for that, right? Marriott basically, and times a multiple, right? So if you're getting a 2x multiple on your sale of your company and you have $700 million liability, that's 1.5 million, 1.4 billion dollar less that you could have made. So it's real, right? So at the scale that these corporation successful programs are operating, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollar liability. So now that creates a internal conflict between the marketing guys and the accounting guys, right? Okay. The finance guys, like marketing guys are like, great, let's give away more points because people love points.
Go get it. Yeah.
And the CFO is like, whoa, stops. Like every dollar of points of liability we're taking in, it's not just $1 less on the stock price. It's actually, if you have a company have a multiple of 10, that's like $10 worth of per share, potentially, $10 on the company earnings, right? Potentially that need to be deducted from your share price calculation. So that's just kind of the concerns, right? So I like to really look at the consumer's concern and also enterprise concerns. So, I think it's very important in mass adoption to really bring in established players into the fold. And we're excited. Like, one of the things I'm most excited about is like that, like, hey, maybe a lot of bad ICO project has been flushed out, right? But like behind, corporate boardrooms and doors, we're talking about 80+% of the Fortune 500 companies have really looked at blockchain technology, and a lot of them are actively experimenting or have real production projects in the works right now. So
for sure. No, and as a regular Joe, average Joe, I like to kind of play along with my name and just like a normal guy in crypto. If there's a way for me to acquire Bitcoin cryptocurrency by just doing what I usually do, and I've had several projects on before, and I love the concept of just integrating Bitcoin and crypto for free, just for not changing a single thing. So knowing that and kind of piggybacking off of what you said about $2-3 trillion worth of market cap that's potentially available through the rewards economy, for lack of a better word, I guess, there's a lot of potential to really take the next step. And it may be the single easiest influx of money and people that the blockchain could ever imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly we think it's one of the biggest ways and to bring in tens of millions of user adoption, right? Like, when you use an internet browser, you don't think about that it's processing through TCP/IP protocol and all of that, right? Blockchain, you need to get to the same way. Like, when you are accessing a quote unquote a wallet, you need to get to a point where you don't need to think about this is any different than any other kind of store of value you're familiar with. So right now, I think what we got to is there's better UI UX for crypto wallets. It's still designed with the more sophisticated users in mind, right? There's maybe, let's say, 2 million enthusiast early adopters. How do we bring the next 20 million on board? How do we bring people like my dad, my mom on board? It's really maybe like just tell them, hey, you're earning rewards and you can cash it out to these different things. And if you understand, you're sophisticated enough about crypto, you can kind of exchange this with other digital assets. But if not, if you just want to redeem it for a digital asset in the form of a $5 Starbucks gift card, that is a digital asset we also allow converting to, right? And in fact, we offer 400 different major brands gift card, right? So like no other crypto project really tackled it this way, where they are really basically saying like, hey, we're trying to make it compatible with like Amazon and Starbucks and Target and American Airlines. We are kind of taking the approach that like, hey, let's work within the ecosystem that already on brands and products and services people already are actively using, right? So
yeah, I mean, just the other day, I had one of my best friends. He's recently, just got his first Bitcoin, right? Or got into Bitcoin. He doesn't own a full one yet, but he's just recently getting into Bitcoin. Was really excited about doing such. And he asked me, he said, "Look, Joe, I see." He actually heard one of my interviews. He goes, "Do you know if there's any credit cards giving out crypto in any capacity for rewards rather than points or whatever?" I'm like, man, I don't know that. The answer to that question, I have not personally heard of one. Is this something that you think we can expect pretty soon?
Yeah. So actually, we have something better, right? So we basically Tap Network basically is built on a open finance network framework, right? So basically, what we can do is allow you to earn, Tap stablecoin really for literally based on your fiat purchase on your existing credit cards. It doesn't have to be a specialized credit card. So our whole idea is also like, let's not force consumer to change your behavior. If you really like your American Express and if you really love your Chase Sapphire cards, and those are great cards, just keep using them, right? What we do is like basically like, hey, we built APIs where you can delegate permission to view your data, right, anonymously. So we basically get access to your data. With your permission, you can basically also then grant permission to say like, hey, I love travel, I love dining, I love retail. Maybe I live in New York, I don't drive, so don't share my data with auto companies or insurance companies, but these other companies, please share my data if they're willing to reward me. So we work directly now with the merchant we detect charges that you made on your credit card, and you potentially, for just walking into a Starbucks or, going shopping on bestbuy.com, you could be potentially earning our digital stablecoin for that, right? So we don't change, we don't need you to actually go apply for different cards. That's not necessary, right? So there are, for issuing credit card or debit card, it's a long way to go to compete with the established players.
Of course.
Right? So
yeah, but the one advantage that this industry in crypto and the blockchain has is that, let's be real, like it's in the best interest of the company in a lot of ways to make it as difficult as possible to spend your points. You don't want them transferable because somebody will use them. You sell them, they'll be used for a purpose that was for you and not for somebody else, right? They might expire as we spoke to earlier, or they might have certain blackout days, and crypto takes all that away. Now, the moment somebody huge does it, at that point they're on. It's industry standard, right? I mean, if you can't compete with somebody who's giving away all those points back out into the market, I mean, that's a huge deal for these companies. And like you had mentioned, you got to have them on the books anyways, right? But think about this, like isn't that the beginning of it all? And next thing you know, everybody's going to have to do it.
Yeah. I think a lot of the better practices in consumer friendly practices in rewards industry is driven by competition, right? Like, for example, recently United had announced that miles never expire anymore in their own system, right? Sure. In their own siloed, centralized system, miles never expire, which is great. Which I would really expect kind of American Airlines and Delta to follow suit. They have to, right, to keep up.
They have to
with competition,
especially American Airlines.
Yeah, so so that's great, because I would imagine the marketing guys at United won a big fight and do that. But now, as an enterprise, United have a problem of now, like they're facing potentially now accumulating into billions of dollars worth of liability, when before maybe they can only expect like hundreds of millions because they keep expiring points every year. So now, like, it's a perfect opportunity for us, and we're having conversations with all the major travel partners. Sure. About like, hey, maybe it's time to kind of figure out how we can integrate our system, because our system actually can potentially help you like mitigate some of those liability risks, right? And moving this onto a blockchain token. So
yeah. So obviously you guys have had relatively good success when you consider 250,000 plus merchant partners, right? But how has the reception been, Lin?
Yeah, so the secret sauce of us being able to cut deals and attract 250,000 top brands and merchants really is, we transact in fiat with these brands.
Sure.
The brands are still a long way from being able to understand and be comfortable accepting any other crypto, right? So our digital stablecoin is basically denominated and pegged to the US dollar. So it's an easy calculation for us to basically like, hey, we received, you made a $100 purchase with this hotel chain. We received $10 in commission, and we record that on the blockchain, and you got shared, maybe $7 in our digital stablecoin. So we do the translation between, fiat and our stablecoin, and potentially we, because how we have built a network of merchants. We can allow compatibility and
Sure.
and redemption between any other digital asset. If you do hold a lot of Bitcoin, and you do hold a lot of Ripple or any other major currency, potentially you can also redeem into our network, right? So we have made one announcement so far, like Mobile World Congress earlier this year. So that BAT token, BAT, that Brave, the browser company. Yep. Also allow you to earn for just browsing, doing everyday activities.
Cool. So you're like double dipping, just do both at the same time and you're getting some.
Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to make technology this middle layer right now that can act as the translation layer. There are tons of great, digital asset crypto projects that basically hasn't, haven't had time or haven't made it focus to tackle building a merchant network. We have, right? So we basically can make our technology available to lots of great projects. Yeah.
No, that's incredible. And as you mentioned, that fiat gateway to the merchant, I mean, it's of no consequence, right? It makes it very simple. And I love the assuredness that you bring to this conversation. It's like, why hasn't this happened? Or because it isn't there already. Maybe people are skeptical that it's actually going to work. But I think about it, and I remember seeing a few different crypto projects pop up 2016, 2017 that did try to address the merchant to customer rewards program. What makes this a little bit different? And I know this is a loaded question, Lin, but there's a flash in the pan here. I mean, the easiest concept for me to be able to explain to people is, hey, it's kind of like a gift card, right? I mean, but really the blockchain is not like a gift card. It's very different than a gift card, which is obviously, what you're explaining here with Tap. But what makes you, and Lin, when I say this again, you don't have to tell us everything, but because I know there's probably some secrets, but I know for a fact that you're doing something right that you have to be able to talk to these people about.
Yeah, I think we are first and foremost. I think we are old school entrepreneurs. We care about delivering a product, right? So when our product, the original idea is just compensating consumer properly for their data. We didn't like right off the bat start using blockchain technology to do that. It's really, one of our investors and advisors, great investor in the blockchain space, Lin Dai, who's the first investor in Bitfury, the largest, Bitcoin mining company outside of China. Also in a traditional venture space, Zoom, he's the first investor in Zoom and early investor in Treasure Data. So really understand the data and blockchain space. I sat with him, a couple of summers ago and was like, how do we handle this data privacy issue? And then we basically, napkin out how blockchain can actually be used to do this. So like a non-ICO founder, I went back and started building a prototype, and everybody, later on, 6 months later was like, why didn't you just put out a white paper and do an ICO? That didn't even cross our mind, right?
Sure.
So
love it.
So we care about building a network and building a prototype of technology that work. So,
which is kind of like what traditional business. Imagine that, right?
Exactly, right? So, I grew up in the first.com. That's just like, hey, you build a killer product, you prove that you can attract, hundreds of thousands of users to it yourself, and then you basically bring in more funding to basically bring it to millions of users, right? So that's kind of what we did, and we really strategically, we're venture funded, so we kind of picked our investor. We went after investors that are strategic, that are connected to all the hotel groups and all the partners we want to talk to, right? So it's not just like, there's huge value in kind of getting a grassroots participation from your users, but like, what we're trying to do, we thought it was more important to, hey, who is best friend with the CEO of like this hotel group that potentially can be an investor, right? And make an intro. So we did a lot of that. And then it's it started becoming a domino effect where, with the credibility of some of the early deals we did, that leveraged to, other major companies being receptive to take a meeting with us.
Yeah. And, just for the audience, for those of you listening, and really for those of you who may get the chance to watch this, you don't actually get to see the sponsors without going to their website, and that's tapnetwork.io. And I'll give Lin at the end of this time to kind of explain, where you can find them at in the company. But I'm going to read off just a few of the sponsors. I mean, excuse me, the affiliates here, the people that have signed on with Tap Network. And, we'll start just from left to right: Nike, Earn.com, Amazon, Spotify, Netflix, Adidas, Hulu, Apple, Starbucks. I mean, think about that. I mean, those are what I just named off 9, Lin, or so. I mean, those are 9 of probably the top 25 brands in the world, right? And it's no surprise why you got them on the front, because they carry such weight and such credibility, and it speaks so much to what you just said. You get a few of these folks on, and next thing you know, it just looks the part, right? It is. And it almost is industry standard already. And I really can appreciate how much time and effort it probably took to actually get to that point. But more so, this didn't probably start today or last year. those networks and that affiliation with, credible projects probably started 15 years ago, right?
Yeah, throughout my career, I built great relationships.
Sure.
And this project alone, we spent 3-4 years working on building this network. We're relatively quiet on what we were doing, right? So and it's also as running a rewards program, it's really also chicken and egg, right? So if you don't have great brands that's willing to reward you, are you really going to like go out of your way to shop from like a really unknown brand and maybe get some rewards? Like you're going to buy, I truly believe like you want to shop with and be rewarded with and earn towards something you're passionate about, right? So we try very hard to kind of bring in partners that is already likely becoming part of your lifestyle. So
well said. Okay, so we're winding down on time. As I know, we want to make sure that we let the people understand how to reach you. Why don't you go ahead and tell us real quick any final thoughts, anything that we missed that you might want to cover, and then where they can find you.
Yeah, so actually, I want to point out like Tap is a primarily a B2B2C technology, right? So Tap technology is basically being licensed to and adopted by some of the biggest companies in media and entertainment. So you may sign up. We're actually really excited. There's an upcoming launch in November. One of the biggest in the entertainment space via rewards program.
Wait, who is it?
Can't tell you just yet, but I'll we'll give your audience a preview when we're ready.
I was going to say maybe we can get a little sneak because that actually sounds really interesting. Number one, and obviously I know it's a big deal for y'all. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
Yeah. So, but prior to kind of our November launch, right now, if you're interested, you can download our owned and operated app. It's called HOOCH, HOOCH. So you can download, try out the ability to basically connect any of your credit or debit card to the system. And really within hours, you can start earning Tap. And then any Tap you earn, you can immediately cash out to
that's cool.
Amazon gift cards or Starbucks gift cards. So,
no, I love that, and there's so much potential here. I really commend you. I don't really have a preference on who does this in the space, right? I mean, I just want something like this to exist. I couldn't be more proud to know that it's you, Lin. I can't imagine, this going any better so far. You've done a tremendous job. You've got a great team behind you, it appears. And, you guys are equipped for the long haul.
Yeah, thank you. We're excited. I'm a rewards nerd myself, so if we can actually make something that's kind of is the future of rewards using this great technology that's blockchain, awesome.
It's a perfect fit. Okay, so it's that time of the show where I get to humanize you a little bit, let you get kind of touch base with the audience, find out who likes you, who's not going to like you, who's going to agree, who's not going to agree, and it's called my quick fire. And so I get to ask a couple questions to the guests, and they're just maybe on topic, maybe a little off topic, doesn't matter, right? So are you ready?
I'm not sure, but go ahead.
Fair enough. Okay, here are the rules. You can choose to answer or not answer anything you want. I'm gonna be mad at you if you don't answer though. Okay. However, it's your choice. You better answer. No, obviously, just joking. But in all realness, if there's something you just don't feel comfortable with, or if it's just something you don't have the answer for, no problem. But the audience is waiting with anticipation for your answers. So here we go. First question. It's my favorite one to ask. I ask it every show. In the 250,000 years of supposed human existence on planet Earth, do you think aliens have ever visited, interacted with, or been here on planet Earth?
Yes.
Interesting. Good answer. I mean, it's at least worth exploring, right? So if it's a no, you're just like, no, not possible.
Yeah, it's who are we to say that we were the only kind of species that even on planet Earth, right? So.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting, theory, and there's a whole television series that was wildly popular called Ancient Aliens that addressed some of these things. Even if you don't agree or don't believe that aliens may have been here, that show's still it's entertaining at minimum. All right, moving on. Bitcoin as a political party, yes or no?
No.
Interesting. Any thoughts?
Well, the whole idea is it's a decentralized instrument, right? It's not about gathering together behind a single cause and
pumping up Bitcoin.
Yeah.
To the moon, right? But yeah, fair answer. And I get several different questions or several different types of answers. Some people say no, some people say yes with exceptions, some people say absolutely. To me, Bitcoin personally is very authentic, right? It's an established brand. It's there. It's proven itself. And I love the legitimacy it brings to that ideology of transparency, you know? So when I think of Bitcoin, and when I think of a political party surrounding Bitcoin, I would think of it that way. But that's obviously different for everybody.
You know, I feel like if there is a political party, I'm just maybe jaded. Like if there is a political party wrapped around it, it kind of takes away everything that's great about the Bitcoin. That now we're coalescing around a single person that represent this ideal, right? Like a political party that, you know, there's a leader of the party, right? So I think
where there's humans involved, such will be greed.
Okay, if there's no, I'm totally down for a non-human political party for Bitcoin.
Come on in, robots. Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I completely respect that answer. Obviously, there's no right or wrong here. We like to have some fun. All right, best movie of all time, Lin. You can have two if you have to.
You know, best movie of all time. I love there's an old movie that's Tom Hanks, Joe versus the Volcano.
Absolutely.
So it's a classic. And then I thought, what's that dream movie by Leonardo DiCaprio? Inception. Inception was, you know, I thought was kind of didn't deserve the credit that or the reviews. It didn't get great reviews, but you know, it was something that's just like, it was you know, there's multiple layers, right? Like it was kind of as an intellectual exercise. I really love that. So.
Yeah, that was Leonardo's movie that came out right after Shutter Island, I think, right? Or it was around the same time period. And I actually really enjoyed Shutter Island. Like I was not prepared for that. And you know, it's kind of like The Sixth Sense when you find out dude's been dead the whole time, right? Obviously that's not the same concept, but you know, there's that kind of shock and like, oh wow, if you didn't catch it prior to, those who haven't seen Shutter Island, I won't ruin it for you. When Inception came out, you know, I felt like Leo was riding maybe even the peak of his career where it was so good. He could not have been, nobody could have done that role. Like that's a hard role to play.
Oh yeah.
You're talking about the emotion that went into it with the children and the family and what he had done and all these other stuff, you know, it was great answers, by the way. You're the first person to ever say Inception and Joe versus the Volcano. And because my name's Joe, it's even better, man. Like that's legit.
Maybe you actually, you know, I didn't realize this, but maybe you put Inception of the idea in my head by putting your name on the screen. So
maybe we're just like literally in the Matrix. And so that was all programmed, right? No, I'll never tell you if that's the truth, right? I mean, this is your Matrix moment where, you know, maybe you can break through. All right. So Neo, this is Mr. Anderson. And I do have one last and final question for you. Best or most influential person that has inspired or influenced you the most? Like, who is the person that you've looked at, been involved with, that's been the most influential on your life in crypto? I know that's a hard one, and feel free to shout out several if you need to, but you know, I'm looking for one specifically.
Yeah, I mean, in crypto, I have two people, right? So the person that got me my first dollar of Bitcoin, you know, Joe B. Weeks, shout out. Great entrepreneur as well, and just the fun guy. And
what year was that, by the way?
Oh, you know, maybe 90. Not 90. Maybe 14. I feel like 2014.
When you said 90, I was like, Satoshi? Is that you?
No. 2000. No, it's 2014 or 15. Yeah, so it's fairly recent, but you know, he just
that's OG
downloaded Coinbase and you know was like, here's your first dollar of Bitcoin. And of course, I didn't look at it for a while, and I was like, should have put in more. Of course, all of us should. You know, and think also just the.
You're gonna say that about today, by the way, one day.
Yeah, you know, the second best day to investing in Bitcoin is today, right? So
exactly right.
So you know, I think on how to apply, you know, blockchain, you know, broader than just Bitcoin, you know, I think the most influential person certainly is Bill Tai, right? So our investor advisor, who's just a great visionary, and every year he actually co-hosts a blockchain summit on Necker Island with Richard Branson, and the criteria, it's the criteria for that conference. It's the only blockchain conference that you're not allowed to talk about using blockchain for finance industry, right? So it's not about trading crypto. It's really about how to use blockchain to better the world. Any project that actually saved the world on doing, you know, towards either UN sustainability goals or other ways to improve human life.
No currencies allowed. I think that's interesting. And although I've heard of the event, I've not actually heard that part of it. I didn't know that was one of the the must haves.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, look, hey Lin, this has been a fantastic interview. I'm so thankful for your time. I probably ran over just a little bit because I know that you have places to be. But thanks for stopping in, man.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you for having me, Joe. So.
Don't forget us in November when the stuff starts to pop off and things are going crazy and little old Bitcoin Radio right here is trying to get some information, man. We would love to be able to know so we can support you guys.
Yeah, well, I'll come back on in November when we're able to unveil this to the world.
Yeah, man. No, congratulations to everything. I think that you guys have done some tremendous work. And, I finish off and end every podcast with this. Hey, when it comes to Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, blockchain, what are you doing for the cryptoverse? We know what Lin's doing. We know what I'm doing. I'm doing my best. But what are you doing? Because you might be next. Till next time, Bitcoin Radio. We'll see you soon. WBTC, where Bitcoin lives.